In 2024, there were 5,300 fatalities involving semi-trucks. Well, that number is up 57% in just 15 years. But a recent investigation has brought to light something called Chameleon Carriers. What are they?
Chameleon Carrier is a fly-by-night trucking company. They typically cause many accidents, flagrantly violating safety regulations, and by the time the federal authorities catch up, they're long gone. They receive a new DOT number. They take that number and they basically paste it over the truck, and they're set to go.
They simply disappear?
They get the DOT number, they operate for a year or two, and then they're gone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Johnson. Welcome to the True Claims Podcast, brought to you by the Davis Law Group. I'll be joined by Chris Davis of DLG here in a couple of moments. Normally, what we do is we take a real-life personal injury claim and we break it down. We learn about the laws surrounding it. We talk about compensation and how it's determined. This time, though, we want to talk about a situation on our roads that really affects all of us. And I want to give you a piece of startling information. In 2024, there were 5,300 fatalities on our roads and highways involving semi-trucks. What does that mean? Well, that number is up 57% in just 15 years. That is eye-popping. And I want to bring in Chris Davis now. Chris, we all share the roads with these semi-trucks, but a recent investigation by CBS and also some federal investigators has brought to light something called Chameleon Carriers. I had never heard of these. What are they?
Yeah, so a Chameleon Carrier is a fly-by-night trucking company that sets up shop and does not comply with any of the safety regulations. So it racks up numerous safety violations. They typically cause many accidents. By the time the federal regulators get a handle on who this company is and try to investigate the company just folds, and the owners of that company then set up a new company. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole situation, but the owners of the company are able to escape any inquiry by federal regulators while they drive trucks, causing accidents and causing many of our deaths.
So they continue operating. They simply change names. It that simple? They just change their name and they're back in business.
Yeah, they simply apply with federal government to open up a new trucking company. They receive a new DOT number. They take that number and they basically paste it over the truck of the pre-existing DOT number, and they're set to go. And typically they'll operate for maybe 1 to 2 years. Like I said earlier, they are flagrantly violating safety regulations, and by the time the federal authorities catch up, they're long gone.
And do these companies that create these violations or are involved in these accidents, fatalities, crashes, they simply disappear, so they don't have to pay damages or anything like that? They're just gone. Right.
Well, they're required to pay for the minimum amount of insurance that the federal government requires, which is $750,000. So they post a bond for that. But other than that, they get the DOT number, they operate for a year or two, and then they're gone.
How many of these fly-by-night, as you put it, operations are there?
So there are estimates that put that number around 100,000 to 150,000 of those companies as Chameleon fly-by-night carriers.
So that's sobering to think that we are sharing the roads with these companies. I'm guessing they aren't the best drivers. I'm guessing they're not trained the way they're supposed to be trained. Who are these people? Who are the people starting and restarting these companies?
Yeah, some people say they're members of various crime syndicates. Some people say that they are people from outside the United States that come to the U.S. and then set up a shop like this. But what people need to understand is when you're driving on the road and you see a commercial carrier or a semi-truck, you need to give that truck distance, because typically even a minor accident can cause major damage.
Yeah, when you think about it, these trucks are huge, much bigger than most of the automobiles we drive around. They're going at a high rate of speed. They may or may not have been trained how to operate these things. They may or may not pay attention to the rules of the road. I guess in something like this, you have to try to figure out who are the bad guys. And in this situation, is it the companies? We've established that these companies are a mess. How about the drivers? Are they victims or are they a part of this overall problem?
Yeah, so many of the drivers are actually victims. The companies involved will cut their pay, charge them unnecessary or fraudulent fees and take it out of their paychecks. And they will also mess with the number of hours that they're obligated to keep when on the roadway, right? So the companies are really taking advantage of these drivers, which is contributing to the safety violations and the number of accidents.
Recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
I recently read that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, they regulate the trucking industry. They've been cut, they've been slashed, they've been defunded. So you've got a form of deregulation happening on top of everything else. That makes for a perfect storm, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably the major cause, because when you cut money to the regulators, there's less regulators to investigate the companies. A lot of these fly-by-the-night companies know that and take advantage of it, and that's why they've been able to escape the law for so long over a frequent period of time.
Thanks for joining us on this latest episode of the True Claims Podcast. You know, one of the reasons I love doing this show is I learned so much about the legal process and how it works, and also about what goes into a successful personal injury claim. If you're like me and you're curious about some of those things, you can leave a comment down below and we might put it into our next show. For instance, if you have a question about obscure road laws or dirty tricks by the insurance industry or personal injury situations you want to discuss, leave them in the comments below. You might be a part of our next show. And now, Chris, the Supreme Court is getting involved in all this.
Yeah, so this case involves freight brokers who are in charge of finding the carrier to ship the goods from one location to the next. And the question is whether the freight broker has an obligation then to pick a safe company, to do a little bit of investigation and weed out some of these fly-by-night companies that are committing all of these safety violations. And so the freight brokers want immunity. They don't want to be charged with that sort of obligation, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how the Supreme Court rules on that narrow issue.
What can the government do, or are they doing to put a stop to this practice?
So the federal government just does not have enough investigators to cover every situation or every area where the truckers are operating. The last I heard, there was only 350, I think, to 400 investigators compared to 700,000 companies that are out on our roadways.
Amazing. And I'm struck by the changing of the names thing. So they will post bond. Let's say they're in an accident or a fatal accident. They will post bond. So they'll own up to that. Yeah,
they'll give the investigators a copy of their proof of insurance, which is only $750,000. That's the other thing. The minimum limit for truckers, $750,000, is a very low amount, because even minor accidents involving these size of trucks can cause millions of dollars in damages and killing people.
So let's say this record of poor driving or poor practices adds up. They start this new name, this new company. They slap something on the side of the truck with a new name, and then they have a clean record just like that.
Yeah, they're able to escape the federal authorities for quite some time. Sometimes the investigators will catch up to them, but many times not. You know, I know of one company that racked up over 15,000 citations over a 2-year period and caused over 500 accidents in that 2-year period of time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then they dissolve.
And then they dissolve, and then they open up a new company, call it a different name. They plaster that name on the truck, covering the old name, and nobody knows for the better.
So for those of us that are out there driving, I mean, you know, geez, you drive across the state of Washington, you pass dozens, if not hundreds of trucks on certain days. I mean, we're sharing the roads with these. What can you do? I mean, yes, we have to pay attention. Just give them a wide berth. I
think that's the main thing that you have to do. Give them a wide berth. Don't tailgate. If you're going to be in close proximity, I would say pass the trucker if you can. If not, then stay way back. But this is a serious problem. And it's great that the journalists were able to uncover this, because it's rampant in our country, and it's causing major harm, major deaths, major accidents.
Is it safe to say it doesn't appear like it's going to be getting much better anytime soon?
That's absolutely true, because again, the federal government just does not have enough investigators to cover everything, you know, and respond to safety violations. A lot of times it'll take 1, 2, 3 years before an investigator is put in contact or knows about all of the safety violations before anything is done.
Man, really, really food for thought, things to be thinking of.
Absolutely.
As we're out there on the roads. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the True Claims Podcast. I'm Eric Johnson. This is Chris Davis. Be safe out there. See you next time. Eric Johnson here. I spent the last 30 years reporting on what you need to know, and now I've got something I think everyone could use. The Washington Accident Book Series offers a free legal guidebook on everything from car crashes to dog bites, so that you know what to expect after any kind of accident. Know your rights and how to avoid common mistakes after an accident by getting your free copy at WashingtonAccidentBooks.com.